In the name of the Almighty God, the Compassionate, the Merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear viewers. Welcome to another episode of the Noor Podcast. Another exciting and enlightening episode with an exciting guest. A influencer in the most positive of ways. Someone who has no social media but influences many in the best of ways, in the way of religion and the purpose of life. And that will be the topic of today with our honored guest, Sayed Mohammed Baqer al Qazwini. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for joining us again and helping us in finding our purpose in life, inshallah. An exciting podcast where many youth deal with finding their purpose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, and we created jinn and ins just to worship. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. What is this worship and how do we shape this in our day-to-day lives in 2024?
One of the biggest challenges that we have today, despite our technology, our science, our advancement, is that we're more confused than ever about our purpose. 8 billion people today. Many of us are educated, we've gone to colleges, we know how to read and write more than any time in history. Look at the literacy rates. But how many of us know what our purpose is? Not many. People are confused. Many people don't really know why they are here on earth. What purpose should they fulfill? Where are they heading to? What's their final destination? How do I make the best of my life? Many of us are clueless. And because we are confused about this, our mental health is taking a direct hit. That's why there's low satisfaction with our lives. Contentment is low. Depression is on the rise. Mental health issues on the rise. Because when you don't have a sense of clarity as to what your purpose is, naturally you're going to suffer psychologically and mentally. So this is the most important question that should be on your mind. What is my purpose? Why did God create me? In fact, did He create me? Who created me? Am I some evolutionary accident, as some try to make me believe? Right?
Yes.
Or no, I have a creator who created me for a purpose and He's given me the roadmap to find that purpose. This verse in the Holy Quran that you referred to is the key to that answer. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. The Creator is expressing to you the reason why He created you. Take that seriously. Allah, the manufacturer, is telling you exactly why He made you. So you don't need to go and guess. He's already telling you. Sometimes we're trying to figure out what is the purpose behind life. You don't need to trouble yourself. Your manufacturer is already telling you. If something goes wrong with your device and you try to go and figure out what the issue is when your manufacturer has given you a catalog. When this error code comes on, error 225, that's what it means. Are you going to try and figure out what 225 means when the manufacturer already tells you what 225 means? That's the error code, that's how you fix it. Allah is giving you this code. This is why I created you. I have not created you except for worship, for ibadah. You want to find that purpose of life. You want that life to be enriching, meaningful, successful? Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But now here's the important question. What does worshiping God mean? That's the question here. That's where you need to work. Allah told you, I created you to worship me. That's your purpose. And the more you fulfill that purpose, the happier you will be. The more successful you will be. The more prepared for the hereafter you'll be. But how do you get there? That requires effort and research. I have to see what the Quran says, what the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what the Imams of Ahlul Bayt say. How do I worship God? Sometimes worshiping God can come in the form of a word. Your friend is depressed, you change his mood. You say a nice thing. Your sister or brother is having a bad day and you uplift them. You change their mood. That's sadaqah of your word. That's ibadah. Looking at your parents with compassion, with love, even if you don't say anything.
Yes.
You're just sitting looking at mom with love. That's ibadah.
Yeah.
Helping the poor. That's ibadah. Earning halal income. That's ibadah. Praying, fasting. That's ibadah. And the best form of ibadah is to avoid sins. Avoid seeing that which is haram.
Yeah.
Saying that which is haram. Hearing that which is haram. That's the best ibadah. All of this package is ibadah. But really, that is the purpose for you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Because from Adam to this day to 2024, we live in an ever-changing society whereby values, morals, laws, and circumstances are ever-changing, and also the purpose of people change every day. But when we look at the timeless purpose you mentioned, the timeless forms of ibadah, like being good to your parents, like being good to the poor, that's in every society, in every age,
Transcends every time and
Yes,
age in
it's
society.
timeless, it's unlimited. Ahsantum, beautiful. And the purpose is the same for every human being, for every creation of Allah, for the jinn and ins. But has purpose also a gender? Does it change when you are a man or a male or female? Do I have another purpose than sister?
That's a very good question, especially these days. We've got a macro purpose and we've got a micro purpose. The macro purpose for every human being is the same. Whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're black or white, whether you're rich or poor, doesn't matter. Regardless of your background and your circumstance, your macro purpose is the same. The macro purpose is to worship my Lord, recognize I have a Lord, recognize that He's worthy of being worshipped, protecting yourself from indecency, from haram, and preparing for the hereafter, such that if my time comes and I have to go to my grave, I'm ready. On the day of judgment, I'm ready. My macro purpose is the same. Now we come to the micro purpose. The micro purpose varies from one person to another person, depending on your background, on your surrounding, on your environment, on the access to resources that you have. This will determine what your micro purpose is and how best can you utilize the tools that Allah has given you to better yourself and to better your society. That varies from one person to another person. One person might need to be an educator or teacher to best fulfill that role, because you live in a society with very few educators.
Yes.
In some circles, you may need a doctor. In some circles, you need a lawyer. That varies from one person to another. Sometimes you have an exceptional skill that I don't. You're very good at writing. Maybe you need to be a journalist, and that's how you support the truth. Depending on your skill set, you can choose a role that's effective and that will have a positive impact on society.
Yes. Side note, say, I don't have skills that you don't possess.
No, every person has unique skills. And alhamdulillah, you have a lot of good skills. So your skill set, your environment, the access to resources that you have, maybe a lot of people around the world don't have the access to resources that you have. So you need to use these resources in order to make a change.
Yes.
You can be in a leadership position and guide the youth. Maybe you'll have an opportunity to go somewhere and work out for a charity. Maybe I don't have that opportunity, or my friend doesn't have that opportunity. So the micro purpose can vary. Now, amongst the variations, when we come to the micro purpose level, is gender.
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it very clear that He has created two genders. I know this is controversial, and not everyone is open to this discussion. But at the end of the day, we live in a society that allows you to express yourself and to share another perspective. If you're successful, hear the other side. See what they say. Maybe there's merit to what they're saying. Maybe the way that you're doing it is having a lot of negative impacts. Is it good for your society or no? Allah makes it very clear that He's created two genders. خَلَقَ الزَّوْجَيْنِ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى. He's created male and female, man and woman. Because Allah knows what's good for us and what's functional for us, Allah has created this binary. That's how we, people of religion, understand that from the scriptures and from the teachings of all prophets and the imams. Not just Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I challenge anyone who accepts Prophet Abraham, Prophet Moses, Prophet Jesus to disprove this. This is the vision they gave us because this is the most practical. When I start inventing genders and adding genders or creating confusion, or I encourage people to swap between genders, I create instability, psychological instability. In fact, you create moral anarchy. There's anarchy. There's nothing fixed that you can hold on to. Some people today who may be very liberal and they're living in modern society, they're saying anything society dictates, it's good. You can do whatever you want. Your identity, you choose it. Your gender, you choose it. Your lifestyle, you choose it. You're free completely. That's a jungle.
Yes.
Where's the stability in that? That's moral anarchy. When I can't hold on to something, when I can't even define what a man and woman is anymore.
Yes.
Right? What kind of expectations will there be in society, and how functional will society be? This is one reason why the mental health of people is suffering so much. So when you come to the micro, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us gender roles. There is man and there is woman. Yes, a lot of the laws apply. We have to fast, we have to pray, we have to pay charity, we have to be responsible, we have to have good akhlaq, don't sin, don't do injustice.
Yes.
But the micro way of doing it can be different.
Yes.
You as a female, you pray, and I have to pray, but you have to be covered when you pray. Does that mean that I'm better than you or you're better than me? No. Because you're different. Biologically, we're different. Physiologically, we're different. Psychologically, even though we're very similar, there are differences between males and female.
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed that which is appropriate for you. So when you look at the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the purpose of every human being, uphold that law, respect that law. It's good for you. But at the micro level, there will be variations.
Yes.
A mother's role is different than a father's role, even though they're equally important. So at a macro level, when you look at purpose, there are differences. A woman will reach that same purpose that a man is trying to achieve, but the path will be different.
Ahsantum. Very amazing answer. And working towards our purpose and fulfilling our purpose in this life comes with many challenges, of course. That's why this life is created, this dunya is created. And we asked our followers what the biggest traps and what the biggest distractions are of fulfilling that purpose in this life. And we had different answers. From music, we had overworking, the limit of time because we're working towards our career, studying, working 70 to 80 hours a week. When do we have time to put effort in our religion and to put effort in all the things you mentioned, like being extra nice to our parents, making time for our religion, gaining knowledge? How can we balance this life-work balance, and what is more important? Because halal living is important, is a form of ibadah, but at what wage, and what do you offer? What do you sacrifice in gaining that halal income? So it's a difficulty. Like we say always, in the West, we are in a rat race. We always have little time. We don't have time. When our family, friends call us, we don't have time. So how do we fulfill our purpose and get rid of the distractions? And are there really distractions, or should we find a balance between working, making a halal income, getting rid of haram habits, and fulfilling our purpose? How do we do that?
The purpose is very clear.
Yes.
But there are so many distractions in the way, so many wrenches in that wheel.
Yes.
A successful believer is one who can decipher what is a distraction and what's not. And if there's a distraction, how can I eliminate it or modify it? Sometimes you need to modify something, not eliminate it. Let's examine how this world of distractions work. You as a believer have to navigate through very, very challenging paths, because life is a trial. Allah gave you the intellect, He's given you tools. Allah expects you to make the effort and make it there. You're not a robot. Allah didn't create you to be a robot. Where I plug you in, go. I'm going to control you, get on the other side. Allah wants you to navigate it because that's when it has value. When you reach on the other side, you say, thank you, Ya Allah. You gave me the tools, but I also made the will. I also made the effort. There's nothing more valuable than that when you achieve something. Allah wants you to achieve success. So naturally, there's going to be obstacles on the way. Some obstacles we ourselves create. Some obstacles Allah puts them to try us. Some obstacle shaitan creates. Some obstacle materialism creates. There are many, many different obstacles. How do we navigate through these distractions? Now, one of the biggest distractions, as many people have communicated to you, is work. Work is distracting me. I barely have time for myself, for my ibadah, for my family. How do I look at that? To relieve yourself from the burden of thinking that work is a distraction, first of all, know that if your work is halal and purposeful, that in itself is ibadah, it's part of your purpose. One powerful hadith states, I don't think people realize the impact of this hadith. 9/10 of deen, religion, is in halal rizq.
Wow.
90%. 90% of deen is not salah. It's not fasting. It's not hajj. It's not zakat. It's what? Halal work. Because it's very difficult. When you live in a world where you're tempted, you can easily cheat, you can easily defraud, you can easily make more money by selling haram or investing in a haram company. That's not easy. Navigating that is not easy. But know that the fact that you're working hard to bring halal income, you're worshiping Allah day and night. So you're not losing. If I spent 8 hours today for halal income and I'm doing purposeful, some jobs are really purposeful. They make a difference. They're good, positive jobs. You worshipped Allah. You prepared for the akhirah. Imam Baqer alayhi salam was once seen in the heat of the sun, midday. Remember, those areas, Arabia is very hot in the summer. So midday he was seen sweating and working the earth, tilling the earth. A man passed by. You know what he said to the Imam very ignorantly? He said, would you not be ashamed if you were to die in this state? Sweating to make a living? The Imam said, no, I would be dying in Allah's obedience. There's nothing greater than me working with my own hand, securing my dignity and not being in need of others. That's ibadah. If this applies to you, don't think of that as a distraction. You are worshipping Allah. Chill, relax. It's okay. Yes, but the next step is don't overwork yourself to death. And don't get obsessed with work and obsessed with money. That is the balance that we need to maintain. Work such that you have a living, you can support yourself, you can support your family, you may have a little bit of extra to support your community, projects, you can fund a charity. But if you're always in a competition, my neighbor has a bigger house, I need to get a bigger house, you failed your test. If you just want more money just for the sake of having more money, you failed your test. If you're overworking yourself such that you're so stressed, you have no energy for anything around you. Mom calls you, you yell at her. Your wife, you yell at her. Your kids, you have no time for them, you failed your test. You have failed your test here. There was a brother in a community who would work 18 hours a day.
Wow.
I don't know how you can work 18
hours.
But there are people out there. I don't know how much does he sleep? Like 3 hours?
3 hours, yeah.
Then you need a little bit to go and come and eat and do something.
Travel,
18 hours he'd work. Subhanallah, I think that amount of energy. But he was exhausting himself. So one day we spoke to him. Brother, what's the matter with you? Alhamdulillah, you have a good financial life. You don't need to work all that extra. You know what he said? Sayed, I have 3 daughters. And I want to buy each of them a house for the future so they have a house. That's why I'm working so hard. I told him, are you competing with Allah? He said, astaghfirullah, no. I said, no, you are. He's like, how? I'm like, are you the Razzaq or is God the Razzaq?
Allah.
Why are you worried about the future of your daughters, whether they're going to have a house or not? And you're killing yourself right now. And then do you think your daughters appreciate what you're doing right now? So we spoke to one of the daughters. She said, Sayed, I don't even see my dad. He's not a father figure in my life. We don't appreciate what he's doing.
Wow.
We're developing right now. We're teenagers. We need a dad with us.
Yeah.
We don't feel like we have a dad. I told him, is that what you want? You're working so hard so you can buy her a house, so she has a house in the future, but she doesn't have any moments with her dad?
Yeah.
You're not her source of guidance in her life? Tomorrow you think she's going to even remember you? Why are you killing yourself like that? So the obsession with money, with the stock market, with cryptocurrency, with working so hard, that's when it's a distraction. But when your work is purposeful every morning, Ya Allah, I'm working for halal income for your sake, to bring a dignified life to me and my family, that is the core of ibadah. That's not a distraction. But stay in that lane.
Yes.
Don't go in these other lanes.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. Yeah. Make time for your salah. Make time for salat al-rahim and keeping good ties in your community. Make time for ziyarah. If you feel like your work is keeping you away from anything, that's a red flag. You should have some time for these activities. So that's one way of navigating this type of distraction. But now we've got other distractions.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop here.
The list is long.
One of the biggest distractions in our life is what the Quran calls laghu or lahu. And one of the qualities of the mu'mins is that they avoid them. Surah al-Mu'minun. The beauty of the surahs of the Quran is if you see a surah has a title, that's the main theme. Go and examine that theme. Surah al-Mu'minun is describing to you who the mu'minun are, who are the believers. How does the surah start? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Who will achieve success?
Yes.
Mu'minun.
And we all want to be believers.
And we all want to be believers and successful believers.
Yes.
Okay, what's the next description that the Holy Quran tells us? It's about their prayer. They have that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. They don't just pray, they pray with khushu'. Because they know why they're praying. They're honored to stand before Allah and pray. They're honored. It's not a burden, it's not a chore, it's an honor. It's my daily appointment with the King of the universe. What's the third verse? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. And they are the ones who keep away from laghu, diversion and entertainment. One of the biggest distractions in our life is entertainment, diversion. Specifically, the world of music and songs. It's a big distraction. Our modern culture and society does not understand why Islam has a problem with music or singing. In fact, I heard once someone saying, what's up with Islam? Why does it have a problem with an art?
Yeah.
Songs, singing, music, it's just a form of art.
Yes.
What is this obsession Islam has with prohibiting it and considering it a sin?
I'm not harming anybody.
I'm not harming anyone.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting in my room, listening to it, or I'll go to a stadium in a concert, and I'm just dancing and have a good time. What's the problem with you guys? You don't want me to have a good time? That's the common objection that people make. But let's always rationally look at what's influencing us. Don't just go with the mainstream and just go with the flow because you've been brainwashed and you've been told that this is good. Analyze everything you do. I challenge today every youth. Everything you do in your 24-hour schedule, challenge it. Is this good for me or not? If society has told me this is good, is it proven to me that this is good or not? And if religion tells you something is good, that's okay, verify it, research it. Don't accept anything blindly, but know why you're doing what you're doing. That's very important. So let's examine the world of music and how it's a distraction from God, from responsibilities, from life, and from the success of life. First of all, when you look at the world of music, let's break it down into these different components. The first component is the world of lyrics, songs. Do an analysis of the lyrics out there. just do a content analysis. Sometimes I do content analysis, okay? I don't listen to music and singing, but sometimes I do want to know
what the lyrics are.
What the lyrics are. Why are people listening to these songs? To these songs? You know, what's it attracting them so much? So I do a content analysis. And by the way, there are companies and sites that even do that.
Yeah.
They do content analysis of all these songs. So it's very important for us to know the content of these songs. These lyrics, what do you think the main themes are in these lyrics?
Crime, drugs, sexism.
Over 70% of all lyrics, they're about violence, sex, crimes, as you mentioned, haram love,
Halal,
relationships.
everything that God forbid.
Most of these lyrics are focused on these ideas. Are these ideas beneficial for my success? Violence, is it good for me?
No.
The whole world of drugs and sex, is that good for us? Haram relationships, is that good for us? Spending 20 years obsessing over heartbreaks and breakups, is that really making you a better person?
Oh.
So when you do a content analysis of the lyrics, honestly, they are not that purposeful.
No.
Even the clean lyrics, you can analyze some lyrics, okay, there's no cussing involved, maybe there's no that direct reference to violence, sex and drugs, but it's not about something that's purposeful. It's all about a heartbreak, that's all, right?
Yeah.
How he abandoned me, how she abandoned me, how he betrayed me, how she betrayed me. Okay, now I'm lost without him, you didn't value me, but now I have to move on. You spend 10 years of your life obsessing over these lyrics and ideas and relationships. What have you achieved? Look, the reality is you're going to live once. Once. And you spent 15, 20 years of your life just experimenting with different relationships and emotionally being drained, because every relationship that ends is going to break you.
Yes.
And you have to start over. And then it's going to break you.
Okay.
You could have used those 15 years of your life doing something much more productive.
Yes.
You could have built civilization in those 15 years. Be ambitious. Make a difference. Billions of people are suffering, poor. Do something for them. Empower yourself with knowledge. Empower yourself with science. Empower yourself with morality. Prepare for the akhirah. Study the Holy Quran. You don't believe in the Quran? Okay, study the Bible. Fine. Study anything that's productive.
Productive, yes.
A lot of these lyrics, they're based on ideas that are not real. They're superficial.
Moral.
And they're immoral. Now, when I say superficial, I don't mean that people don't go through these experiences.
Yes.
The reason why people really it resonates with
Connect
them
with it, yeah,
is because you feel like the song is describing your last heartbreak.
Yes.
But that's superficial life.
Yeah.
All these relationships, you know, by the time people, they're in their mid-30s and they're stabilizing and they want to create a family, they've went through like 30 relationships. Do you know what damage that has done to you emotionally, psychologically? How much energy has been wasted? Look, emotions are infinite fuel sometimes. A lot of it just got wasted on breakups and relationships.
Yes.
What have I achieved?
Yeah.
So when you look at the lyrics, a lot of them are disturbing. Even those that look harmless, they're not purposeful.
Yes.
They're just distracting you from the seriousness of life, from what you have to do.
They're keeping you heedless.
They keep you heedless and they reduce your productivity. Even if you think they're increasing it, that's false. We'll get to that. That's the first component, the first dimension about music. The second component, it's addictive.
Very.
Many studies have been done. I can share with you studies, okay? Done not in Muslim countries, in Canada, in the US, in Britain, in Europe, that have shown that a lot of types of music have the same effect as drugs do. The way they impact the brain and the part of the brain that lights up when you're listening to that addictive song, it's exactly what some drugs would do. That's harmful to you.
Yes.
That very addictive nature of music and singing is very detrimental to your mental health.
Yes.
Are you aware of that or no? Or no, society says it's gonna cheer you up. And a lot of people will tell me, no, Sayed, I'm in a bad mood and I'll listen to music, I'll feel good. Habibi, that's exactly what drugs do. Okay?
Temporary
People
pleasure,
who take drugs, when they take their drugs, they're so
good.
high. They're flying over cloud nine. I don't disagree. But then you come crashing down and you did damage to your health.
Yes.
Sure, some types of music may quickly elevate you
Yes.
and change your mood, but then you go through withdrawal. Many studies have shown that prolonged exposure to music and singing will make you irritable, angry, frustrated, and impact your mental health. And this is one of my most important points that I share with my brothers and sisters and any human out there. Music and singing is not good for mental health. And the proof. Look at the statistics of people with the worst mental health. There was a study that was done in Britain years ago, and it looked at rates of depression and suicide amongst the general population and then specific categories of people. So that study concluded that 19% of Britons suffer from depression, which is significant. That's 1 out of 5 British people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Now we're not talking about, okay, today I'm sad and then I get over it. No, like depression as a chronic condition, disease.
Yeah.
Then they looked at subcategories. Among the highest rates of depression and suicide were among who? Musicians and singers.
Wow.
You know what the percentage is? 73%. 73% of musicians and singers suffer from depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. Why? They've got the money, they've got all the fame you can ask for, and they've got all the attention. What more do you want in this world? People kill themselves to get fame and recognition and money. They have all of that. They're not happy. Why? I don't want to bring names here because I don't want to be seen by people as judging certain people. I'm not here to judge anyone, by the way. We wish the best for all human beings and for them to be in a better state. I'm not here to judge anyone or put down any musician, singer. That's not my intent. My intent is to describe to you the reality and what's a distraction and what's not. Most of the famous singers that you can think of, many of them went through severe depression, went through loneliness, through anxiety, more than the average population. Why? Why? Their money didn't protect them from that. Their fame did not protect them from that. The whole world is cheering and following them, but many of them, they admit they went through miserable days. And they have one of the highest suicide rates. Why? You know why? Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam, said 14 centuries ago, وَكَثْرَةُ الْإِسْتِمَاعِ إِلَى الْغِنَى يُورِثُ الْفَقْرِ. Imam says prolonged exposure to singing and music leads to poverty. What does he mean by poverty? Money? No. Quality of life. You can have all the money in the world, you're not enjoying it. It's not giving you a quality life. You don't have a stable family life. Look at it. Again, I'm not here to judge them. Look at many of them. They go through that fame and then after that they fall into drug addiction. And then they become miserable and then they get jailed this day and that day. And then they go through mental health. They commit suicide. It's a distraction. If you think music is good for you, just look at the statistics. I'm not asking you to believe in me blindly and in our hadiths. Look at the world out there. It's a distraction. I know you'll go in that concert. You'll be jumping. You'll have the night of your life. But it's a distraction from the seriousness of this life, from true ibadah, from doing that which is good for you. It's a distraction. Because there's only so much emotional energy that we have. And music sucks a lot of that emotional energy. And it leaves very little for the other dimensions of your life, for your family life, for your Lord, for the seriousness of what you have to do. It keeps very little for you. That is a major distraction in our life. So when you're trying to find that purpose, always ask yourself, is this a distraction or is this helping me? My friends whom I have a late night gathering with, okay? Is that a distraction or is that really helping me? When I leave those sessions with my friends, and that's an indicator to know if they are good friends or not. After leaving that gathering with your friends, do you feel closer to Allah or further away? Do you feel you love your parents more or you hate them more? Do you feel you are interested in studying more or less?
Less, yes.
The answer to these questions will determine whether these friends are good for you or not.
Wow, subhanAllah.
See, everything, believe me, you have a built-in compass. You can determine whether it's a distraction or not.
Yes.
Put your goal in front of you, that target, and ask yourself, is this helping me towards that goal or not? Very simple.
Ahsantum Sayyidina, beautifully. And about music, I urge the people to do a test with music. I tried myself. One of the brothers told me back in the day when I was in ghafla, I was listening to music, and I also was of the aqidah that when I listen to music and go working out, I would be more increased in energy. It will increase my energy. But really, music is a disease of the heart, of the ear, of the body, and of the soul. And I urge the brothers and sisters, half hour before Salah approaches, listen to your music playlist. Listen to one of the songs. And
of course, we don't encourage anybody to listen.
No, of course not. But try. If you're listening to music, listen to music, and then when Salah comes,
see if you still have that interest to pray.
The sweetness, do you want to taste the sweetness, or
in fact,
are you lazy?
That's very true. Yeah. One of the effects of music in the world of singing, it deflates you from worshipping Allah. If you've just listened to an hour of your favorite song, you think on a Thursday night now you have the energy for Dua Kumail?
Yes.
Not really. For most people, not really. And that's how you know whether this is actually good for you or not.
Yes.
So yeah, this world of music is something that we really have to address. Its addictive nature, whether it's good for you or not. And believe me, if you take a break from it, you'll realize how damaging it was to you. I remember once I was at a retreat and a brother told me, Sayed, I was addicted to music. I couldn't fall asleep if I didn't have those earpods on and I'm listening to my favorite songs. I'd wake up with music, go to the gym with music, drive with music, music.
Yes.
And I thought I was happy until I realized one day, what am I doing? Is this satisfying Allah or not? Is this bringing me closer to Allah or not? He said, I stopped. 3 months I stopped. He told me, I'll admit, the first month was hard. Because you're going through withdrawal.
Of course.
If you're addicted to drugs, you can't stop easily, right? Anything you're addicted to, it's hard to stop it. He's like, that first month was hard. He said, Sayyid, now, after 3 months, I feel liberated, I feel light. And it was the best decision I ever did in my life.
Yes.
Try it, be courageous, do it.
It will give you much more.
But it's hard.
Yes,
you're surrounded by music. In fact, once a sister told me, Sayyid, I tried to stop listening to music in my family. My sisters started saying, oh, you're crazy. You've become an extremist. Astaghfirullah. Look at the end of times.
Yes.
You decide to do something good,
yes.
and people say, oh, you're weird, you're extreme.
You're being criticized, yes.
I don't dispute that. If you try to stop that, you're gonna swim against a global wave.
Yes.
It's not easy, but you can do it, and it's worth it. And you'll save your soul.
Decide for yourself. Do you want to go against the norms that are ever changing, or do you want do you want to go against the norm that is established by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's never changing, and it brings you happiness, a purpose in life, and brings you to the akhirah you want, and not to the akhirah shaitan wants.
Absolutely.
Ahsantum Sayyidina. We talked about purpose, we talked about gender roles, the biggest distractions, alhamdulillah. But we said we have micro purposes and we have gender roles which will define what the micro purposes are. So we have a male and female. We have a masculine man and a feminine woman. Nowadays we have more masculine women and more feminine men, unfortunately.
It's all mixed up.
It's all mixed up. It's a milkshake. So what is masculinity in Islam? Because nowadays we see a lot of people on social media, Muslim, non-Muslim, popping up out of the woods. Every Tom, Dick and Harry has an opinion about what a masculine man is. You have to go to the gym, you have to be this, you have to be against your wife, your wife has to submit to you. You're a masculine man. You have to work hard, 80 hours a day you have to work, and that's a masculine man. You have to be successful, you have to look fit. But what does Islam say about masculinity? Is it encouraged or condemned?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us males and females. خَلَقَ الزَّوْجَيْنِ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى. And one who's a male, that comes with it masculinity. And a woman, it comes with her femininity. And these are two separate dimensions of our genders and sexes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gifted us with. Because masculinity and femininity, they enrich our lives. They complement one another. And if we approach them properly and understand them, we can have the most beautiful life. The problem today is that society is very confused and has a misconstrued understanding of what masculinity is and what femininity is. And then there are those who just want to erase all of that and lump us all in one category. There's no masculinity, no femininity, whatever. You're just one thing, or you could choose whatever you want to be, or you could swap and change and experiment. Now there are a lot of people today, whether some of our Muslim youth or even non-Muslim youth, who are advocating for masculinity. And some of it is a reaction to feminism, obviously, because the last few decades, right? There has been waves of feminism and many types of feminism. So some of what you see today is actually a reaction to that. This has led some of our youth to a misconstrued, wrong understanding of masculinity. And it's what I call toxic masculinity. Let's talk about good masculinity and bad masculinity. But let's first start by describing the negative masculinity, or what I call toxic masculinity. Today, masculinity, in the eyes of many people, what does it mean? First of all, it means that you're aggressive. I'm tough, I'm violent, and I'm aggressive. A lot of youth have told me this, and you could see it. Another dimension of masculinity that people think is good is that you should not be emotional. You can't shed a tear. You can't cry. A man, if you're really a man, you can't cry.
A man doesn't.
You can't compromise, and you cannot forgive. Once a brother told me, Sayed, somebody wronged me, I forgave him. All my friends made fun of you. Ah, you girl, and they called him some inappropriate names. You weak, you're a girl. What do you mean you forgive? You're a man? You can't forgive. Be strong. Go hit back, retaliate, don't forgive. So masculinity has been associated with not being forgiven. If you forgive, you're not masculine. It means you're tough with your woman. You own her, you control her, you degrade her, and that's how you show that you're a man. Show her who's in charge. Show her who has the authority here. And she has no say, she's just a slave to serve you. That's one idea of masculinity. So we have these very misconstrued understandings of what masculinity is. None of this is what Islam approves or sanctions. And none of this is what we find in prophets and imams. My dear brothers and sisters, if you want to properly define and understand masculinity, don't go far. Go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. How do you see, right now if I ask you, Sayyid Sajjad, how do you see masculinity in Rasulullah?
Compassion.
Because he's the most honorable man.
Yes, merciful.
Compassion, merciful,
generous, loving, caring. Yes.
But I thought these are non-masculine traits.
Emotional.
He would not hide back his tears. He'd cry. When he would see an act of injustice, when he would be with his grandchildren, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, he would show you a lot of emotion. Right? I thought this is not compatible with masculinity. What standard are you going by? If you're going by Allah's best created man, that's masculinity. Compassionate, forgiving, loving, responsible. Yes, when it comes to protecting your community, don't compromise. The Prophet never compromised. Yes, give me money, let's negotiate. I'll give up my faith and I'll give up my values, and you can invade my family and my territory. Never. Strong. Strong. The Prophet was he'd never crumble. Patience. That's masculinity. When you as a man, you protect women, you protect your mother, you protect your sister, right? You protect them. In fact, you give them a sense of security. You know what a woman wants? Feel safe. If you make your wife feel safe with you, you're a man, I respect you. But if she's constantly intimidated and she doesn't know when's your next chess move, of course chess is haram, okay? When's your next move? And there's no safety, security, I don't respect you as a man. Because you're a bully, not a man. We think masculinity means to be a bully. Some people think that. Make those people around you feel safe. Give them proper protection. And give them proper guidance. Yes, you as the father, you as the husband, you're the guardian. You have a responsibility. And a woman should respect that guardianship. Of course, Islam is big on that. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat things for you and say things that are false. No, 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 no. You wife, do whatever you want. You never have to listen to your husband. No. You want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yes, be a good wife who respects her husband. And you, the husband, don't abuse that. Be reasonable. You don't own your wife and boss her around just because your ego tells you. But if you as the guardian, based on wisdom, have determined that this is good for the family or not, wife, respect that. You can have a conversation with him. There's nothing off limits that you cannot have a conversation about. Talk to him. But respect his authority as well. Respect that guardianship. Definitely, that's part of masculinity as well. But some people take it to toxic levels, where they feel like the guy needs to own the girl, she's submissive, that's it, just destroy her, she is nothing. You're in charge, it's your show. That's not true. When I see the Prophet, I don't see that's how he lived with his wives. I don't see that's how Imam Ali lived with Lady Fatima. I don't see any member of Ahlul Bayt who lived like that with their wives. Who's your role model? Where are you getting your masculinity from? This is toxic masculinity. Masculinity means when you don't party, when you work hard, and you're responsible, and you're serious with your life. But if you're partying every night, having those 5-hour hookah sessions, I don't care how big your muscles are, that's not masculinity. Don't fool yourself, and don't fool others, okay? That's not masculinity. If all you do is flex your muscles on social media, and you've got nothing going on in your life, what kind of masculinity is that? What are you doing for society? What are you doing for your akhirah? Okay, go to a gym, of course the halal way, and maintain your health, that's fine, exercise, I'm not against that. In fact, exercising is good. But if your goal in life is just to maintain muscles and flex them and show them, and that's it, you've got really nothing else going on in your life, no, sorry, you're a failure. You're not worshiping God, you're not preparing for the akhirah, you're not bettering society, you're not bettering yourself.
Yes.
What, we human beings are just a blob of muscle? We're much more than that. Are you nourishing your spirituality just like you're nourishing your body? Just like you're flexing your muscles, let me see your spiritual muscles. Let me see your patience. Let me see your akhlaq muscles there. Let me see your forbearance and forgiveness. Let me see that. That's what makes you a human, not muscles. Otherwise, animals have bigger muscles than we can ever have. Is that what we're reduced to? So I think there's a lot of toxic masculinity out there. To the contrary, we have femininity. And some people think being feminine is being inferior. Right? Allah has given us these two beautiful standards. You know, one of the, Sayyid Sajjad, you know one of the problems of, I don't want to say all of feminism, because you've got many types of feminism, right? But one critique that I have of some aspects of feminist ideology is that one thing feminism has tried to achieve in the last few decades is make women like men. Because men work this job, let's work that job. Because they wear pants, let's wear pants. Because they do this, let's do this. Because whatever. The idea is equality, so you women become like men, and act like men, and function like men, and lead like men, and work like men. In doing so, you're creating a number of problems, and you're falling into a number of traps. One of them is, by trying to advocate to women to become like men, and do what men do, right? You are inadvertently, without noticing, you are accepting that feminine and woman is being inferior, and man is superior, and you're trying to become superior like the man. That's wrong. Islam rejects that. Islam says men and women have different standards. and they're independent from each other. Allah gave you the man as your own standard. Allah gave you the woman your own independent standard. You woman, you should never try to become like a man. You man, you should never try to become like a woman. Cherish the gift that Allah has given you. Your femininity is the gift from Allah. Cherish it. The man, your masculinity, not the toxic one, the appropriate one, that's a gift from Allah. Don't sacrifice it. Don't try to become like a woman, and you woman, don't try to become like a man.
There is no superiority or
There's no superiority. They're both equal in the eyes of Allah if they fulfill their roles.
Excellent.
Today, we find, for instance, the role of motherhood being eroded.
Yes.
Motherhood?
They laugh at you when you say, I stay at home.
I stay at home and I
take care of my kids. Yeah.
Your own female friends are going to laugh at you before the men.
Yeah.
That's what I hear from a lot of communities.
It's true, yes.
Why? No, go work like the husband does. Why are you trying to become like the husband?
Be independent, make your
money.
Why?
Who told you that?
Yeah.
Cherish your motherhood and the femininity that Allah gave you as a mother to raise children, to be the glue in your family. Appreciate that. Love that. Be proud of that. Be honored that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you that. Don't see it as something that's inferior. Regardless of what modern society tells you. Don't listen to modern society. Believe me, they got so many things wrong. Just look at the world today. It's in a mess.
It's a mess.
What have we achieved? And then by eliminating these roles, do you think women are happier today than they were?
No, they're
Look
not.
at the studies. Don't take my word for it. I invite anyone who's listening and who doubts what I'm saying, just go today online and just Google these terms. Are women today happier or no? Women who are working a full-time career and they're overexhausting themselves just to work like a man. And then they have the obligations of going through pregnancy and then labor and then, nourishing the child. Are they happy or they're become more miserable? Do you know that on average, women are much more stressed in the workplace than men?
Of course.
Why? Women are just stressed out today in modern society because society has just burdened them. No, you got to work like your husband, like your father, like the man. You have to get equal pay and equal hours. If he's working 8 hours a day, I don't know, like what, you have to work like him as well. And then you have to be pregnant. And then you have to go through this and you have to... Why? Why are you overburdening them? Imam Ali alayhi salam says, Al-mar'atu rayhana. Woman is a flower. Don't break her like that. Yes, she has her personal space, sure. If she wants to work part-time, that's fine, as long as she's meeting her family obligations and she is committing time to her family. Give her space. But to break her and impose on her to become like a man, you've destroyed her essence. So this is one problem that we find with masculinity and femininity these days.
And a family flourish when these two roles, the femininity and masculinity, are in its place?
Absolutely. When children grow up, seeing that their father and mother respect each other, because that's key. Don't bring me examples of toxic families, okay? And then you're like, oh, Sayed, look, the guy is acting like he's masculine father, and then he's abusing. No, don't give me those examples. These are messed up examples. Let's look at healthy families. When children grow up, they see their parents are compatible, they're respectful, but they see their father has a distinct role. He's the guardian of the family. He's the breadwinner of the family. He gives you that masculine safety in the family, like the protection that he gives. And then they see the mother and their compassionate nature and just her motherly heart and her being the glue of the family, right? When they see these different roles and how the mother is more committed inside the house and how the mother is more committed to her modesty, to her haya, to her decency, right?
Yes.
These children will be much more successful and they will not grow up being confused. For them, they have a beautiful path to navigate. I learned from my father these values. I learned from my mother these values. I bring them together. I'll be the best of the best. But when mom and dad are all over the place, there's absolutely no roles that define them. The child is going to grow up confused. So it's Sajjad, if you go to a company, any company that you work at, okay? If you go to that company and you start working there and you grow up in that company and you're going up the ladder, you see there's no president, there's no secretary, okay? There's no vice president. There's no treasurer.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing everything.
Yeah.
What kind of experience do you think you'll have?
Very chaotic, very
Very
stressful. Yes.
Does that help your business future?
No, of course not.
You're
No.
gonna, when you leave that building and that office and that company, and you're gonna go out in the real world,
Well,
in the
yeah.
street, you're gonna be lost.
Lost, yes.
By eroding these gender roles and eroding proper masculinity and femininity, what you're doing is you're pushing your children to a territory, to a world that will confuse them and they will not know how to function properly. But once you clearly define these roles appropriately and in a healthy way, you're putting them on the path to success.
Ahsantum, Sayyidina. Because what a lot of feminine women, feminine according to the femininity of nowadays, not the Islamic femininity, they have a problem with the masculinity whereby they think women cannot be a leader according to masculine men. And what does Islam say about women and leadership? Because, for example, the Ayyimah alayhim salam, they were all men. The prophets were all men.
All men. It's a
And
common objection.
The
Why?
Maraji are all men. The speakers, the scholars where we get our knowledge from are all men on the pulpits. So what does Islam say about leadership and women?
That's a very tough and sensitive question.
Yeah.
Let's briefly break that down. Yes, when you look at the history of humankind, those leaders whom God appointed for public positions, like prophets and imams, were males, were men. This is not a Muslim theory. Just look at the reality. Abraham, was he a woman or a man? Okay, Christians, basically, who is their central figure?
Jesus.
A man. Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the imams of Ahlul Bayt. God is not favoring men over women over here, or masculinity over femininity. But when you're a leader out there in the community, and you expose yourself to all these different men who are running society, because historically, who runs society, brother? Who has the political power and the financial power? Since the hunting and gathering societies, right, and whoever had the muscles, right? Normally, there were some exceptions of egalitarian societies, but generally speaking, who had the influence and who was running society? Men.
Yeah.
So to put a woman in that environment where she has to lead men, constantly deal with men on a daily basis, fight men for justice, it was not appropriate because it would compromise her modesty and dignity. So it was appropriate for men to be in those public leadership roles, to deal with other men. If you want to put someone in front of Fir'aun, Sayyid Sajjad, who do you put? A lady or a man? If you put a lady, you're going to compromise her position and status. That's not too appropriate. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put these men in these public positions. But it doesn't mean women are not leaders. They're leaders in their sphere. Lady Maryam, do you see her as a leader? Of course. She's one of the most successful leaders. But she was not a public role going out there yelling at men and leading them and being surrounded by 10 men. No, that's not appropriate. She was modest. She had haya. She kept her distance from men. But she's an inspiration. Same with Lady Fatima alayhi salam. She went to the mosque of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She gave that Fadaki sermon. She exercised leadership. Lady Zainab after Karbala, she exercised leadership. But they created that space. Men, respect my boundaries. I'll speak up when I need to. When all of you men, shame on you, are sitting there not standing up for the truth, I have to respond to Yazid and Ibn Ziyad. And I'll do it. And I'll save deen. But I still have my space. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants space for women. Modern society is based on getting rid of that space. There's absolutely no difference. You just, mingle as much as you can, sit in the same office for 8 hours a day. Today what's happening is, a man who works in the same office, he's seeing his female co-worker more than he sees his wife. And he chats with her more than he chats with his wife. And he jokes around with her more than he does with his wife. And then we've got problems. And then we've got infidelity. And then we've got... Are we surprised? Look, there's no space. We're so intermingling between the genders, we've eroded that space. That is the problem here. So Islam is based on this idea. Yes, women, be leaders. And your first area of leadership is your house, your children. Be the mother leader. Be the daughter leader. That's beautiful. Be the grandmother leader. You know how much influence a grandmother can have in the family? I've witnessed it myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes a mother can be a pillar of guidance in the family. Wallah. She inspires everyone in the family. That's amazing leadership. That's amazing leadership. There are a lot of areas that women can appropriately exercise that leadership. So it's not that Islam looks down upon them. Islam is respecting their space. Because that space protects you, honors you, and dignifies you. That's how we understand it.
Ahsantum. I have one more example of a feminine leader in the history of Islam. Lady Khadija salamullah alayha, who was the wealthiest woman of the Arabian Peninsula.
Successful businesswoman. She had people working for her.
Yes, but how did she keep that space? Because she was working with men and she was traveling and going to other countries to deal and make deals and trade.
So Lady Khadija alayhi salam was a very successful businesswoman. And remember, she's the one who our Prophet chose.
Yes.
So it's a big deal what kind of qualities she had. Out of all women, he chose her.
Yes.
That's very important for her.
Yes.
She was independent. She was a businesswoman who was successful. But she had amazing boundaries. First of all, those business trips, she would send agents working for her. She's not going to go to Syria and deal with all these men in the market. She sent agents, trusted agents. They would do business on her behalf. Many times that's the case. So let's remember that. Second, even in dealing with the agents, she was very respectful. She has modesty. And she had other women with her. Sometimes she would send one of the women working for her to negotiate. Sometimes she would do that. See, she would create these layers. So she was not dealing with like 1,000 men. There were few trusted men that she would be dealing with. And she would give them her vision. And she, like Maysara would work for Lady Khadija. She would tell him how to negotiate, what to buy, what not to buy, not to be greedy, how much to... See, she would give him those beautiful guidelines. And that's how she became successful. So she ran this business operation, but she put a distance. She put space between her and the men who were running that society. And the Prophet fell in love with that. And we have even reports when she wanted to signal to the Prophet that she was interested in him, she didn't directly tell him. Not because she's weak, because of haya. So the hadith states she sent one of her friends, female friends. She spoke to the Prophet and she signaled to him, Khadija is interested. That's beautiful.
That's beautiful, yes. Subhanallah. And when we go back to masculinity, you gave the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Imams, the 12 Imams, Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. But when I look from the eyes of me being 21 and finding a masculine role model, I think by myself, the Imams are very far away from me. They're like ma'asum, they're like, infallible. How can I ever reach that level? How can I see them as an example? I want to ask you the question, apart from the Ahlul Bayt and the Imams and the Prophets, who would you see in history of Islam as a male role model who really was a embodiment of masculinity outside the 14 Masumin and the Prophet?
When we look at history, we've got many examples. Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, that's one pillar of masculinity. Many of the ashab of the Imams. When you look at Karbala and the courage of those men and how they died defending their deen and defending the women. See, one of their goal was, I am fighting to defend Harami Rasulullah. The woman, the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's masculinity. When you look at Salman, Abu Dhar, Ammar, look at their traits. That's beautiful masculinity. But my point is, you don't need to go that far. If you're looking for a closer role model, look at your community today. And you don't need to look at superstars. Brother, in your community, do you know a father, a husband, who's working halal income? He has good akhlaq in the house. His wife loves him and his children love him. Do you know someone like that? He's your role model.
SubhanAllah.
Don't go too far. That's good masculinity.
أحسنتم سيدنا.
Sometimes when we're looking for role models, we try to
You're my
hold
role
on to
model.
something. No, I'm the least of the least. But honestly, and I know you know people in your own
course.
circles like that. We don't need to mention any names
Yes.
right now. That is a beautiful role model in masculinity. So don't go too far, brothers and sisters. In your own communities, in your own families, maybe relatives, right? You will have feminine figures who are the best feminine role models. And you will have masculine figures who define to you masculinity. Don't go too far. They're just around you.
أحسنتم سيدنا. طيب, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to finish on one personal note, and maybe I will put you on the spot with this, but we talked about purpose and bad habits and distractions. But when you analyze your 24-hour day, what would you take out to be less distracted, maybe?
That's a good question. So, of course, you know, when you have a hectic schedule, very busy schedule with studying, with family, with traveling, with, you know, all of that, Alhamdulillah, it's a blessing you have less room for distractions.
Yeah.
But for me, sometimes one distraction is when I read the news. When I read the news, I do want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But sometimes I get caught up with everything that's happening. And then you get this headline, it takes you to that headline. And then sometimes I feel like an hour or 2 hours have gone by. And I'm stressing over what's happening here and what's happening there. Sometimes I feel like it's a bit of a distraction, right?
It's like a Netflix series.
Right.
for you.
I need to make it sometimes a bit more purposeful and more concentrated. Like, what exactly do I want to get from the
Filter it,
news? Filter it, you know, what's beneficial and what I need to focus on and learn from it. Sometimes when I let myself just to read anything that comes on the feed, it may get a distraction sometimes, even though it gives you a better image of what's going on around the world.
It's a good distraction though. You're more informed.
It's a good distraction.
Alhamdulillah, Sayyidina. Thank you very much for being with us, for blessing us with an enlightening and very exciting talk where you have enlightened us and expanded our knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you abundantly, and please, when you go back to your neighbor, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, please pray for us all in the Netherlands, and pray for the faraj of our Mawla, Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman.
Ajalallahu ta'ala farajah. Thank you. It has been my honor. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and all of the mu'mineen and the brothers and sisters around the world.
Thank you very much, Sayyidina. Brothers and sisters, thank you very much for watching, listening. Please like and subscribe and leave comments. Help us in developing and benefiting the community and benefiting the ummah, inshallah ta'ala. Pray for the faraj of the Mawla, and I wish you a very blessed month of Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.